Okay. Alright, guys. So, there we go. So, I think I'm going to make this season 2 of the Music and Stuff podcast. And I may end up changing the name, but I think this is going to be a very important episode for me. Like, if no one really, a lot of people don't know, I didn't really tell anyone. But basically, I'm moving back to Philadelphia for the time being, and throughout, I think, the month and further on, I'll explain just more in detail about my life, because I think even though I can go on tangents on this, I don't really fully, I'm not fully transparent, I think, when it comes to some things about just me. And I think that's because I'm not fully transparent with myself. When I first started this podcast, I saw it as a way to get out my thoughts, which was something I couldn't do, or something that I wouldn't say I couldn't do, something that I was too afraid to do while I was in the open, while I was in public, while I was with people, because I had so many conflicting emotions. And now I'm kind of going through maybe a restart period is what I'm calling it right now, but I think the name will evolve from that later on. Me being in Harrisburg for it's almost 7 years now. 7 years would have been August. It's been a long time. 7 years? Yeah, almost 7 years. And it's been quite a while me being here. And I met so many people, and I've been discussing with friends of how we have to move, how we have to move. And I always made it a waiting game. My thought process of why I was moving is, or why I wanted to move when I wanted to move, was really because I was just waiting. And I think because of my self waiting so much, of trying to get somewhere, waiting for the right moment, I think I kind of lost myself, because I wasn't doing it, at my own pace. And you would think, well, you are, because you're waiting for that moment, but I've never really been that person, I think, or maybe I'm just not good at it, or maybe it's just because I was waiting for the wrong reasons, but after college, I really wanted to set out. I really wanted to set out on my own and see where things went, and I think I'll explain that in detail further in other podcasts. But I think right now I just want to talk about change, and talk about finding who you are. And at my age, I think a lot of people will forever go through that, but I think at my age especially, a lot of people are trying to figure that out, trying to figure out what are the things that they want. I remember when I was little, when I moved from my elementary school to my middle school. Well, I just went to different schools, and the one thing I kept always thinking was I wanted to feel a way I wanted to feel back in elementary school. Not in terms of the fun and stuff like that, but spiritually, mentally. I think I wanted certain things that I knew I lost. I think that was my first time experiencing loss, and experiencing basically wanting nostalgia. And it was only months before then, but I really wanted the comfort, I think, of what I had. And I was always so conflicted because there were times when I wanted that and times when I said no, like you have to let it go, you have to let it go. And yeah, and I think right now I'm in this in between space of trying to see if me going back, like, what do I want for myself? Do I want to find things that I used to have, or do I want something different? I think this time period of me going back is going to have a lot of change for me. I'm going to be away from friends. I'm going to see familiar faces for sure, but I'm going to be away from the people that I've practically lived with for most of my adult life. And it sometimes it sounds easy to just go back. My dad kind of thinks, you should have went back sooner, but he understood why. And I've been wanting to leave Harrisburg for like the past 2 years. So when this opportunity came up and I was talking to my parents, I'm like, look, I'm going to have to move back. Or I didn't say that. I said, look, I'm going to have to change some things. And they said, well, at this point, just move back. Move back because you want to leave there anyway, And it's like, yeah, I do. I do want to leave there. But I guess what I was expecting of how I was going to do it just never seemed to turn out right. I had all these thoughts and all these decisions from before, and I was thinking, okay, when I first decided to stay, when I had the opportunity to stay here or go home, like the first real opportunity, I think, I stayed because I wanted to wait. I gave myself 2.5 years to wait to see what happens. And I don't regret that time, but I think I definitely became very. I started to become comfortable, and then I started to become less inspired, and I started to lose myself and lose my way. Um, while I'm taking, while I'm taking more responsibility, I'm losing like kind of who I am or how I do things, and because of that, everyone has pitfalls or has kind of like weaknesses. Superman has his kryptonite, but our kryptonites are usually our internal struggles, our mental, sometimes usually our mental struggles that we have, our emotional struggles that we have. And if you don't polish the other things and figure out a way to either minimize those struggles or try to convert them, you know, while you're living, the whole time through life, if you don't do that, then they can easily take over. You know, sometimes it's easier to be destructive. Well, usually it's easier to be destructive than to build something, you know. That's why it's always like interesting when like you break glass. When you break glass, you're like, ah, shoot, I broke glass. But when you really think about the process of how it takes to create glass, to create a cup, it's like it's just so easy to break compared to actually trying to make it, actually, blowing in the pipe too, and shaping and molding the object. It's same thing mentally. It's so easy to succumb to your bad habits, succumb to uh, the negatives of life, and the destructive paths. And even though I don't think my path has been very destructive that much, it's definitely been more of a negative space, mentally, and then it started to become more. Uh, it started to show. I think it's been starting to show, and I'm embracing myself going back. You know, even though it's really not something that I always wanted to do, and I really thought about going back home like that. But in order for me to really get to my next step, I feel like I have to do it. And I don't, I hope I'm only there for a few months, but I always say, change can take time. And I think for me, I think change really takes time for me. Um, a lot of times I'm always thinking about so many things and I'm not looking at what's in front of me. It's a trend, and I think the past, really the past year and a half, I've just let myself kind of slide, especially when I had my knee injury. When I tore my ACL, like I knew why I tore my ACL, not just the injury, but why I didn't keep myself in proper conditioning, and I didn't really do anything over that summer to keep myself in a good condition. So when that happened, I knew exactly why it happened, but I didn't fully understand why I didn't do what I normally did. I didn't work out at a normal rate. I didn't, you know, even my like intangibles and instincts started to become different when I would play sports. I wouldn't be as aggressive. I wouldn't be as risk taking, or I wouldn't use what my ability to a certain level. I started to become a lot more, not hesitant, but a lot more calculated. And I guess that was growth. But when I started to do that, I didn't keep what I already had in good shape. I just kind of started to let it go to pick up something else, almost to substitute it, not to polish it. And I think that's really when it started to show. I had the injury, then I had the second knee injury, and then I had the surgery, and even when it came to like music, that was becoming very different. I wasn't really at the same, like I became better, much better when it came to music, but I started to lose more inspiration. I started to put in less work for it. And then when I was planning this move, I knew I was gonna move regardless, but I was supposed to stay here in Harrisburg. And when I was planning on moving, I wasn't even packing. Looking around now, I'm packing now, but I still need to get my boxes and stuff, which I get tomorrow. But I was not packing the way I was supposed to be. I was not prepping myself, and there's the train. I was not prepping myself for the next step. I was just kind of letting things be. So oddly enough, I was. There it is. And I didn't really understand why. I was just letting things be. And that's the next step that I have to really take, is trying to find why I let myself get to this position. Why did I lose interest in my own inspirations? Why did I come to fear when all I had to do was put in the extra work? I have to really find those answers, because I can try to come up with answers for it, but I think my mental and physical state has to be at another level to make those answers, and that takes time. And I think that's something that I am willingly giving myself now, to where before able to I was able to let it I was able to let my mind be clouded before, where now I'm trying to be more, I guess, proactive in reflection of myself. Um, and I hope one way I can do that is through music. You know, it's so funny because every time I've I've recorded probably 3 episodes I haven't uploaded, you know, uh, and it showed that even the thing that gave me release, I wasn't even putting the most effort into. That's kind of crazy, you know. But that's why I call this season two. I call this, it's almost like a new chapter, you know. Um, and then maybe we'll see. Maybe my journey into the next place is maybe season three. We'll see, you know. But this is really something that I've always gone back to. I've always gone back to media, or really just sound. Before it was always music, is what I can turn back to, is what I can just escape through. And discovering music, discovering, understanding the purpose of music. And now it's really just this. I mean, on top of music, really, this is my personal release. This podcast, me talking to myself, you know, just so everyone can hear it. But I really appreciate the people that listen. And yeah, really, like, I never really said this, but really, my next step is when I go back to Philly, you know, I'm going to hone in my skills, get, get myself in the proper mindset, in the right physical form. And then, I want to go to Washington, D.C. That's the next place I've been looking at. And it may change to another area, but that's where I've been seeing. And I have to even talk to myself about that, because the things that are in DC it becomes familiar faces and obviously new faces, but some familiar faces that are key to who I am. And I have to decide if that is what I'm okay with, you know, because I'm going to be leaving a lot of familiar faces when I leave here. Um, and I have to see if me going somewhere closer is okay for me personally, or if I should go even further away. That's a decision I have to make myself. Um, yeah, that's a decision I have to make myself. So, I hope this has helped you guys in your own way. Just being able to be retrospective in where you are. Um, and, I wonder if you guys have ever had a moment of having to be in a, like, repairing mode, repairing yourself, because I know I'm lucky to be able to do that by going home. Usually you have to do that while you're in the progress of doing something else. You have to do that while in the progress of doing something. And I will be in the progress of doing something, but you usually have a lot more responsibility that I guess I am forfeiting for the time being to become a better me, and then to get back to it, you know. And I really wonder if other people have gone through this experience, especially at my age, because I'm 24, I'm getting older, but I'm not to a point where, I don't think, at least I'm to a point where I have to face things at an even more serious level. Um, so yeah, I can't wait to do more of these, and just to see where I am in like the next month or two. It should be a very interesting time period. If you guys ever want to talk to me or reach out to me, just email me or message me. I have all that stuff in the descriptions below. I do want to do more of this about other topics, especially, and still with music, but maybe a little bit more focused on specific types of music again. So I guess my mini series, but maybe called something else, because the mini series are very informative about something else that I've been looking at, and I just want to do more general music reviews, but we'll see. So I just want to thank you guys for listening again, and yeah, I'll talk to you soon.